What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. It's another episode of JohnnyVTV Live. One short tonight, our boy Nick. He had other obligations, but join with me, my guy Kyle Donnelly. What's going on, brother? How are you?
How you doing, Johnny? Another weekend of sports, another crazy football weekend. Tennessee goes down to a inferior Texans team, and it is what it is. It's that kind of Sunday.
Well, if you watch the weekly taste this week, I said it, man. The Titans were just due for a letdown. They were due for this was the ultimate prime trap spot. One of my guys who works at a sports book was like, "This." He's a trader. He's like, "Listen, this is a prime spot. Texans plus 10. This is what we need to come home. This is if I had one bet to make this week, it would be Texans plus 10 versus the Tennessee Titans." And I threw it on my slate. I'm like, "Listen, you got to listen to the people that are taking these bets." And I just had a feeling that the shoe was going to drop for them anyway. They were on such a high, beating teams that are better than they were, and they weren't doing it in a way that just seemed very sustainable. So the Texans just come out, give them an absolute knockout punch, and really make Ryan Tannehill look bad with 4 interceptions. How you feeling about that? You still recovered?
I'm recovering because they got wins against Buffalo, they got wins against Kansas City, they got the wins that I wasn't expecting against the Rams. So they're getting all these wins that I don't expect, especially without Derrick Henry in the Rams game. They're just doing what they need to do right now, and we'll see what happens with them. Obviously, like the letdown game, we knew that was going to happen with them, but like they were due for it. But I'm just glad that it's one and they got the other 3 and. We'll be okay. I'm not worried about this one.
Yeah, I mean, this kind of
not having Derrick Henry is it's gonna hurt.
This kind of goes hand in hand with the feeling like how good are the Titans? A lot of people in the betting community and even football community are like, we're not believing in this team, even though they were the 1 seed for a while, and now they're kind of going back and forth. The Ravens. Don't sleep on Kansas City because here they come, Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. They're not winning the way that we're accustomed to seeing, but they're finding ways to get this done. So this is going to be one that we really need to watch out for, and we can't sleep on Indianapolis anymore either. Huge win in Buffalo, and honestly, man, like I'm not sold on the Colts yet, but their formula is very Titans-esque right now. Carson Wentz making plays when called upon, not making the mistakes, leaning heavily on the ground game behind an RB1 workhorse and a defense that's making plays. So
Jonathan Taylor's going to be a stud. Yeah, he's
yeah,
absolute steal of a running back for them.
That is a big steal. And you know what else is a big steal? We got my guy Jake Ellenbogen behind the scenes. He's the writer for GameDay. Big time Rams fan. We're getting into it. Let's bring him out. What's going on, man? How we doing today? Thanks for joining.
Hey, thank you guys so much for having me. I'm excited to join you guys, and I am a Rams fan, so you definitely got that right.
Well, you and Johnny are going to be like this then. We're going to be hardly able to split you two apart then.
Well, I know a thing or two about the rest of the league, which is good. But yeah, I mean, it's been an interesting season. Things went well, and then things didn't go well, and now we're in the per usual, every Sean McVay season has one of these what's going on here moments. And the last 2 weeks has been what's going on here. We'll see this weekend against the Packers.
How about them Titans, Jake? How about my Titans?
They're a good football team, and they're a team that I respect a lot. So, definitely have no, issue with them. Obviously would have liked to win the game, but, I'm a big Henry fan. I've honestly kind of, over the last few years, I've kind of rooted for them in the AFC. So, if you're going to lose to anybody in the AFC, I mean, I guess the Titans aren't the worst team, so to speak.
Root for the underdog, I guess. Yeah. Hey, you know what? Hopefully Darrell Henderson will take the reins in the backfield there for the Rams one of these days, right?
That is the hope. That's definitely the hope. I think with Cam Akers, I think he'll be back next year in full force, and he'll be the starter.
You truly believe that, even with a devastating knee injury like that?
I do, because I think Cam Akers is going to be back in the playoffs. It sounds to me like he's going to play, first game of the playoffs. Sean McVay wants to get him out there because I think they didn't really specify it at first because I don't think they wanted it to get out, and TMZ got it. And yeah. But, I think it was a partial tear of his Achilles. I don't think it was a full tear. There's no way it was a full tear, because if it was, It's no hate against Akers, but if it was a full tear, there's no way he'd be able to come back in the same season.
I'm just surprised in that report that TMZ is the first one that got it there instead of Adam Schefter or Johnny, help me out with another. Jake, help me out with another one.
Ian Rappaport.
Ian Rappaport, thank you. Blanking, sorry, give me a break.
Are you more surprised about that or the wild Michael Myers mask right behind you? It just looks like Michael Myers is just giving you the Maloik as you're on the show right now.
Sort of out of focus back there.
Yeah,
like just
well, I'm out of
back
focus
there.
too, and I'm trying to figure out what's going on. There we go.
No, it's you're in focus, but the Michael Myers was just out of focus. It was very.
Oh yeah, it's cool because I fixed that whole thing. If you guys have ever seen my videos, everyone be like, well, you have one side of your face is blue and the other is yellow. Like, why do you do that? And I figured out how to not do that, and now Michael's doing it. So
wait, it's fun. Have you seen the newest Halloween? I don't know, man.
Yes,
like I saw the
7
one where
times.
I saw the newest one. I saw the one where he was trapped in the basement and he like somehow survives. I'm like, bro, all right, like let's call it what it is. This guy's kind of a horse, but he's not like a supernatural paranormal being. Like, I mean, come on, let's relax here with the money grab that this guy keeps surviving things that humans can't survive. Like he's trapped in a basement with on a burning down house. Like in what world?
Yeah, I mean, it's a movie.
I know, but
I like it. I think we've always kind of assumed, he was this other type of entity, the embodiment of evil, if you will. So I don't really challenge it that much, but I definitely hear you. I mean, it does seem like it went from, okay, this is a human being to, okay, natural now. What's going on here?
No, absolutely. So, Jake, we every week we do a quick reaction to what happened the previous week. So, why don't you start us off? What was your reactions to Week 11? Who or what stood out to you?
Yeah, so I mean, first and foremost, got to give a shout out to the New England Patriots. I've been big on them the whole season, and part of me, I think, is because I can't stand the narrative that's been going on that Tom Brady made Belichick all of a sudden, like as if Tom Brady didn't go to a really stacked Buccaneers team. Right. He didn't just take a team and carry them. But either way, last year Belichick has a team that has 10 COVID opt-outs. They have a quarterback in Cam Newton that was kind of finding his stride. And then right when that happened,
and just getting over being injury prone.
Exactly. And then he gets COVID and he's not the same after that. And, I just think that's a big thing there. They didn't have, guys like Hightower or Bentley, at linebacker. And I think they just did a really nice job, kind of rounding out this roster this season. Going out and getting Mac Jones was the right move. I thought, personally, I would have traded up and gotten Fields. But my point is going out and getting a quarterback. I like that they did that. They didn't wait like they've done in the past with a Danny Etling or whatever, those type of guys where it's a 6th or 7th round pick. And you're like, all right, well, you got to address the need at some point. Brady's not going to play forever. And now that he's, gone, they've decided to go and get Mac Jones. I think that was the right move. Mac Jones had the highest floor in the entire draft, so it's not a surprise to me the way he's playing. I think they went out and got guys that, the casual fan will trash over and over again. Maybe even the fantasy football fan will trash, but, people that over and over and over watch, the NFL, they know these guys like, Kendrick Bourne, who's been doing his thing with the 49ers since he came to the league at Eastern Washington. This is somebody that's a great route runner. He has great size and can go up and high point the football. And they've given him, opportunities, and that's why he chose to sign there. But, it's not just him. You go out and you get one of the top deep threats last year. I know he became a meme in Philadelphia, but Nelson Aguilar is a hell of a player, in his own right, and how he can stretch the field. So they've been in the top 10 this year in explosive plays, and they really even haven't gotten, like their money's worth, so to speak, out of a guy that very well, Kyle, in Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry. I mean, I really think they could have had better seasons to this point. I'm surprised they haven't. Not to mention they've really babied, Mac Jones, and even still they're top 10 in explosive passing plays in the league. So this is a team, the offense is going, the defense we know was there. And watch out, guys, because I had this team going 11-6 coming in the season, but they've won 5 of the last 6, and the one game that they lost in that run was to the Dallas Cowboys, and it came in OT. So this team is legit. They've beaten the Chargers. We just saw on Sunday Night Football, the Chargers are a legit team. I am not, counting out the Patriots to actually not only win that division, which I think they're going to do, but I think they can win the AFC. We'll see.
It's funny you say that because heading into the season, I like New England. I didn't like New England because I thought they were that good, because I still don't. Like, it's nice to see Belichick proving everybody wrong. Like, I think we've seen they both can succeed on their own. Brady obviously went to an amazing circumstance. It's like Thanos, when he gets the final ring or whatever. I never saw it, but I just see the memes. In any case, like, I had the Patriots win the division as well. Like, I always thought Buffalo was very overrated. I thought they were due to take a big, big step back this season. And when you look at it with New England, a lot of people were trashing Mac Jones, and the guy who they were comparing him to, and it's funny what you just said, the guy they were comparing him to was Matt Ryan. And people, the casual fan, which I can't stand casual fans that think they know everything and they watch only a little bit and they just watch box scores and like they don't see the highlight plays. But when you watch Matt Ryan over his career, he's arguably a Hall of Famer. When it's all said and done, he's going to be one of the best passers to ever play the game, whether you like it or not. And he's not and a lot of people trash him because he's not Michael Vick. He was his replacement. He's not a guy that makes a lot of wow plays. He's just consistently great at what he does week in and week out, even without a lot of supporting cast. So Mac Jones is falling into that same category where you look at Mac Jones, nothing's really that impressive about him. Like, he doesn't have a speed like Lamar Jackson. He doesn't have a rocket arm like Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes. He doesn't have precision like Tom Brady or Peyton Manning, but he's just doing enough. And especially as a rookie, because listen, man, as he gets better and he gets more mature, more years under his belt, I'm sure we're going to see a lot more of the playbook opened up, and he's going to be able to take bigger leaps to becoming why they drafted him where they did.
No, I absolutely agree with you. Not to mention they got a running game. I mean, that's a big thing in this league. You just look at Baker Mayfield. I think he's an extremely limited quarterback, and you're seeing the Browns offense really has a hard time when they can't run the football with Kareem Hunt and, Nick Chubb. And unfortunately, for a team that's so predicated on the run, you have two guys that are constantly hurt. And that's just, you can see it. But with Mac Jones, you have a guy in, Ramondre Stevenson, who's turning into a rising star.
The next
Damian Harris. I mean, Damian Harris, guys, he does not get enough credit because he doesn't get the touchdowns because Cam Newton vultured like 10 of them last year from him. But, Damian Harris is legit. He also came out of Alabama, which is kind of weird that he doesn't get the type of, praise, so to speak, in Alabama.
Play New England, man. Running backs, unless you're like LeGarrette Blount, New England, Bill Belichick's always been weird at running backs. He very rarely has one horseback. He rotates them in. Remember Jonas Gray comes out, gets 5 touchdowns that Sunday night game, then you never hear about him again.
Because he fumbled. And as soon as you fumble, you're in the doghouse.
And he showed up late. He showed up late to a practice, too.
Yeah. And forever, man. You can't get it out with Belichick. Unless you're LeGarrette Blount, who got like 18 tutties in 1 year. It's hard to be a true standout as a running back in Bill Belichick's offense.
I mean, look at Brandon Bolden. Do you think that guy is playing on any other team right now? And I'm not knocking him because I actually like him. But he's the embodiment of that culture in New England that they've built. Him and Matthew Slater, guys that they win in special teams. They win in practice. They just have this preparation about them that is unmatched because they realize that, hey, I'm not the most gifted athlete, or I'm not the most popular guy, or I wasn't drafted in the first round. They made a name for themselves doing the dirty work. And then those guys, Slater obviously isn't going to get any options at receiver. But you look at, for instance, with Bolden had some moments last year where he was like the guy in the backfield with all those injuries. So he's still getting the rock every now and then. And, it just kind of goes to show you, as long as you keep doing your thing and you do your job, as that's like their mantra, you can succeed, with Bill Belichick in this, this team. And so I think, going out and getting the guys that they did, yeah, they weren't always the big names, but they got one big name and he is killing it. He's over the 10 plus sack mark for the first time in his career. And that is Matthew Judon. And he's what they needed. He's what the doctor ordered. He is what they needed. Everyone is so caught up in, they lost Stephon Gilmore and buying into that. They didn't need Stephon Gilmore. That's why he's gone. That's why the defense is still number 1 in the league right now, scoring defense. And, oh, by the way, everyone's talking about Trayvon Diggs in Dallas, and, rightfully so. He has a lot of interceptions. But if you look at a guy, J.C. Jackson is that guy. He had 9 interceptions, I believe, last year or 2 years ago. But he has kind of gone away from being that all or nothing type of corner. And you can see his conservative approach, not trying to jump the route, has actually allowed him to turn himself into a better corner. Whereas you watch Trayvon Diggs, and as I said, not every casual fan necessarily is going to say this, but a lot that I've noticed will say Trayvon Diggs should be, the defensive player of the year. And I'm like, there's no way. Look at how many yards he's giving up. Look at why, everybody and their mother was starting Tyreek Hill in DFS, because Tyreek Hill was going against Trayvon Diggs, and everyone knows that Trayvon Diggs gets a lot of tackles. Trayvon Diggs is perfect for if you do IDP fantasy leagues, but that's because Trayvon Diggs gets burned a lot. So
he's
he
a
may
gambler.
have an intercept. Exactly.
That's
so
why Shannon Sharp and a couple of the ex receivers and tight ends said, I don't understand these offensive coordinators. They refuse to take advantage of this guy's weaknesses, which is hit him with a double move, because he's like Asante Samuel, where he's a big gambler. He likes to jump routes, which is good. It's very aggressive, but this is something that can hurt you if you're inclined
if somebody
to take
decides
advantage of that
to go for a 50-yard ball.
Well, that's the weird thing is Asante Samuel's kid is nothing like Asante Samuel.
No, that kid's going to be special.
He's just so he's zoned, he doesn't do that. He's not a gambler. I mean, I haven't seen him once really go off the beaten path and try to make a big play. He's the shutdown corner. He's going to be a top 5 corner when he fully, progresses and develops, because that's the type of thing. And so I'm not saying, for corners, don't go out and make the interception. Obviously, generating extra offensive possessions is conducive to winning football. But if you're doing it at the, you're risking your defense, and not just risking it, but say you don't have safety help over the top and you're giving up big plays, that's a problem. And that's something that J.C. Jackson kind of took on for himself. So, that's a big thing there in New England.
Absolutely. Jake, we have a few big Week 12 matchups, a few marquee ones. Usually we start at Kyle. I want to start with you because I already know Jake's answer. I already know where he's going. What's the Week 12 matchup you're looking forward to the most, Kyle? You're on mute, my friend. Oh, my God. Still on mute.
Sorry, my bad. Sorry, just switching around a couple things here. For me, it's going to be between the Rams and the Packers.
You literally took his game. I was literally teeing him up.
Sorry.
No. You go another game. You go another game.
I'm going another game then. It's going to be Bucks Colts for me then, because now you got Indianapolis who's deciding to turn their season around. Okay, and they're not. Don't count them out of the playoff picture yet. The Bucks just turned around their losing streak now, just with demolishing the Giants last night. I mean, what an absolute embarrassment the Giants just pulled. I mean, an absolute no-show as far as I'm concerned. They get the game to 10-10 and then do nothing.
Every opportunity to win that game.
Every opportunity.
Which is weird in a 30-10 game.
Forget win the game, Jake. How about score some points? Put some more points on the board.
Cover the spread. That's what good teams do.
Well,
that's what teams do. Cover the spread.
John. I mean, they had every opportunity to keep scoring points to keep up with Tampa Bay, and they just didn't do it. Tom Brady's sitting there snoozing by the fourth quarter, wondering when this is going to become a ball game. But anyway, so it's going to be Bucks Colts here for me. I like the Bucks here on the road, despite how the Colts are playing lately, and they're playing good football. They're playing real good football. They're playing good defense. They're running the ball effectively, and Carson Wentz, like you said, John, is not making any turnovers. So
are you taking the Bucks with the 3?
I'm taking the Bucks with the 3 here. I'm taking the Bucks with the 3. I think that, again, I like the Bucks to get healthy here this past week. They did, not only offensively as far as Gronk coming back. Brown, we'll see with him, but their defense also got a little healthier in the secondary with Bunting coming back. Bunting Murphy. Murphy Bunting. Sorry, I get it confused. I get it switched with that. I don't know. I don't love the over here. I'm probably going to go under. I like it to be like a 21-17 type of ball game.
Wow. Well, here's the big thing. Here's what's going to propel. Here's who's going to make a big statement on whether this game could be over under. That's if Vita Vea plays for the Bucks. He's did not play last week yesterday as expected. So there's a shot he plays. He is the celery.
They played well without him though.
They did, but that's the Giants. He's the celery that stirs the Bloody Mary, the spicy Bloody Mary with the olives and everything in it, like very tasty.
He needs to be going up against Quentin Nelson. Yes.
And listen, Quentin Nelson got banged up too last week. So 2 very key interior players that are among the best at their position in the NFL. Here's one cool note about this Colts-Bucks matchup. So obviously everybody knows what Jonathan Taylor has been doing. And by the way, in his last 8 games, he's 8-0 anytime tutty. First tutties plus almost 16 units. 2 tutties plus 12 units. Like absolutely crazy. But when the Colts have allowed 25 more points this year, they're 1-5. The Bucks have scored 25 or more 7 times this year. However, on the flip side, and this is where the Vita Vea thing comes into play, Tampa Bay is 1-3 when they've allowed an opposing running back to hit 60 yards rushing. Colts 6-0 when Jonathan Taylor rushes for 100 yards or more. So when you look at this fact here, these injuries are going to become such a big part of the impact of this game. And I think, if by some miracle Vita Vea plays, then I think Tampa Bay is going to be able to have more than one path of victory as opposed to Indianapolis where they only have one. If they can't run the ball, Carson Wentz, it's going to be a long day for him. Tom Brady, this could be that second half surge that we saw last year that propels Tampa Bay into absolutely sicko mode going in for a repeat. What do you think, Jake?
I mean, I got to say, this is a huge game for both teams. Looking at the Colts, for instance, I mean, they got to get back into it. Yes, that was a really impressive win against the Bills, but I mean, the Bills also really haven't beaten anybody if you really look at it. So, I mean, the Colts have to keep things going. Very well. I mean, they had a chance to beat the Rams at home in week 2. Carson Wentz gives them an opportunity to compete in this league. And, on top of that, because as great as Jonathan Taylor is, you can't just assume he is going to go off every single game. Eventually, there's going to come a crossroads where, and this could be the game, where Tampa is the best team over the last 2 years in stopping the run. It just isn't there. And then you have to make plays. And they've seen some progression from, Michael Pittman enough where they feel like he is kind of the number one guy at that point. Their offensive line is pretty solid, and I think their defense, coached by Matt Eberflus, has started to find a little bit of a rhythm. We'll see how long that goes and if that continues. But, I think the big problem, with beating Tampa is you have to put pressure on Brady. And the Colts can do that, but they don't have an Aaron Donald. They don't have a Chandler Jones. They don't have a TJ Watt type of guy. They have a bunch of guys that are pretty solid, but they don't have that one guy that can totally wreck the game. And so I do kind of feel like Bucks -3, I'd probably go with the Bucks. I would like to see the Colts win that game. I think it'd be cool, obviously, and make the AFC even more crazy. But I would have to go Bucks -3. And the over-under seems a little high. Just because I feel like if the Colts win this game, it's going to have to be like a shootout, and they're going to have to be able to run the ball. And I don't know if they'll be able to run the ball the way they have. So I kind of feel like it's going to be more so the Bucs defense. They're getting healthier. You saw, they can generate turnovers in a flash. You saw against the Giants. I would probably say under on the 51.5. And then Bucs -3, I would take.
No, absolutely. I think we're all in agreement here. Bucks -3. I would like to see Indianapolis compete in this one. I'll get to it in a minute, but you look at it here. I think Tampa Bay just matches up so well. They have numerous paths to victory. I mean, listen, Carson Wentz is more than capable of still playing like a high schooler, just making stupid mistakes. I mean, he hasn't done so. Indianapolis
The shovel
has not turned the
pass.
ball over.
He's gotten picked up.
Exactly.
Doing.
He could do something so stupid and completely take Indianapolis out of their game plan. My thing is this. If Tampa Bay, because listen, the Colts defense has started to play well over the last several weeks, but the Bucs, they're the number 1 offense in football. They're the number 2 scoring offense. So when you consider the fact that if they're able to get up early and force Indianapolis, kind of like how Tennessee is, when you force them to play from behind, that's where things get dicey for them. They want to be able to run the ball 25 times like Tennessee. Even though Jonathan Taylor's a pretty good receiver out of the backfield, I just think Michael Pittman wouldn't be enough. So Indianapolis's hope is to keep this within range. You do not want to be trying to go score for score with Tampa Bay. I think the Bucs are going to be able to get out to an early lead. This has pissed off Tom Brady. This has pissed off Mike Evans. Assuming Evans is healthy and ready to go, if we get AB back, listen, Tampa Bay is 5-0 this year with AB, 2-3 without him. So he's just a huge piece that just really makes this offense that much more difficult to stop. And with Gronkowski back, I think Tampa Bay is going to handle business. I'm not sold yet on the over-under. I need to see if Vita Vea is going to play because that's going to really dictate the entire game plan for this game. It's going to matter if Indianapolis is going to be able to run the ball, and if they are, Tampa Bay is going to be on the sideline. So Vita Vea is really, like I said, he's the celery stick that stirs that spicy Bloody Mary. JohnnyVTV loves some spicy Bloody Marys on a Sunday morning, getting ready for football. So that's a TBD. But the reason why I would like the Bucs to kind of falter a little bit, Jake, we're setting it up here because I took Matthew Stafford preseason for the MVP. And what would really warm my heart is to see Tom Brady have a little bit of struggles. He's starting to create a little bit of separation in the MVP race right now. That being said, we got the Rams-Packers coming up next. I already knew where you were going, so I'm going to let you lead this one off. Green Bay laying a half a point over under 47.5 in the frozen tundra Lambeau Field. Take it away.
I'm going to take the Rams, and I'm going to take the over of 48. I have this game being a 33-26 Rams. I think the Packers, if they were fully healthy, could probably win this game. But I'm going to give it to the Rams coming off a bye. I guess the hope is that they're not the same team that we saw the last 2 weeks. And I know Sean McVay is saying that's not who we are. Hate to break it to you, but if you show up and you play like that coming out of the bye against the Packers, that is who you are. And unfortunately, we've found that out. But no, I think coming off a bye, they needed it. You looked at, the last 2 weeks, it wasn't the football that they had been playing. They needed to get guys they needed to integrate Von Miller into the defense. So they're using the bye week to do that. They need to integrate, Odell Beckham Jr. into the offense. Von Miller isn't exactly a need. So, they can roll with Terrell Lewis or, Obanat Okoronkwo. Both have had pretty solid seasons if they feel like Von just isn't ready. Whereas OBJ is a need because they need to integrate him immediately with Woods out. They initially went out to get him as a luxury and as depth. But then, Woods goes down and now he has to be a starter because, we saw it. I mean, I know Ben Skoranek, if he gets open, he can make plays with the football. He's big, plays above the rim in the red zone. But I'm not trusting Ben Skoranek to be the third receiver as his rookie year as a 7th round pick. I'm just not. I think that's a lot of, weight to put on him, as well as JJ Koski, who's a 2-year man out of, Cal Poly, I think that is the big thing there for the bye is getting those guys integrated. But then on top of it, Darius Williams kind of rushed back as well, and there was some speculation whether or not he was 100% when he was playing, and that they just rushed him back because of how poor the cornerback play was, aside from Ramsey and the surprising contributions of Double D, Dante Dion. But he had another week to kind of progress a little bit. He's coming off an ankle, so I think he'll be better suited because of the bye. I just think aside from integrating and getting these guys back in game shape, with all of the injuries and everything, it's also just they needed a rest, a mental break. You could just see it. Nothing was working. They had opportunities against the Niners. They had opportunities against the Titans. The defense dominated the Titans when you really think about it, and the offense put them in such a horrible position that it just, at the end of the day, it just wasn't going to be. So coming off 2 losses, your back is against the wall because they can say all they want. They look at this a game at a time, and they're not thinking about the Super Bowl right now, but they are. And we know that. And in order to get to the Super Bowl, obviously you have to be undefeated in the playoffs, but it's going to be a lot easier getting that number 1 seed, having that bye instead of, I don't know, playing through the wild card, because you don't want to play that extra game, especially a game that, very well could end up being against your kryptonite, the San Francisco 49ers, who are back in playoff contention, with their recent win over not only the Rams, but the Jaguars. So the Rams have to keep above water here. And I know it sounds weird, like they're 7-3. That shouldn't be a big deal, but you drop 3 in a row. You go to 7-4. You start looking at the schedule. Who have they really beaten if they can't beat Green Bay? They've beaten Tampa. They beat a really banged up Tampa team. And, aside from that, you start to look and you're like, well, they had a hard time against the Colts. And you could argue they may have only won that game because Carson Wentz came out, with the injury. But, regardless, this is a must win for them. I think they get the job done on the road. I thought they played well last year against Green Bay, and they had a chance in that playoff game. So it's a little bit of revenge factor for the Rams and Sean McVay. And it's Sean McVay versus Matt LaFleur. And here's the question, guys. If Sean McVay's crew can't get it done against the Packers again, so that is Matt LaFleur and Kyle Shanahan, he's lost the last 7 games to in a row. No one wants to bring that up, but that could be a bit of an issue moving forward, especially because you're probably going to be playing one or the other or both come playoff time.
Teacher losing to the proteges.
It's a weird dynamic, but it's something I noticed. And, I think, shout out to
it's a smart point to point out there, Jake, quite frankly.
Well, I appreciate that. I think in the playoffs last year, they started doing something that I think every team should consider doing. When you have, running backs, obviously they don't have Jamal Williams anymore, but when they had Jamal Williams and, Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon, put all 3 of them in a package. And, let's see what you can do with Aaron Rodgers. So you have the threat of the pass, and now you have the threat of 3 running backs that can all catch out of the backfield, that can all run it down your throat. It kind of keeps you on your heels. And so, they've been using more multi-back. And I think that the interesting thing with the Packers is, and we'll see this because their offensive line, again, is really down to just all backups if Bakhtiari can't go. And, the unfortunate season-ending injury to Elgton Jenkins, who they love. But, the fact of the matter is this. Last week, they were forced to play a game of football that LaFleur stopped really loving, to play. They played a more air raid style. I mean, they really had Aaron Rodgers, carry that offense. And, what I've seen with the Packers this year, the recipe for success and their wins, do you know how they beat Arizona? Do you know how they beat teams like that? It's very simple. They want to have a balanced approach, but they want to focus on running the football and power running the football with AJ Dillon, while also utilizing their ability, him and Aaron Jones, who's likely not going to suit up, their ability to pass catch out of the backfield. So if this offensive line isn't, working for them, The Rams had some poor moments last week, against the 49ers in the run game, but by no means were they horrible against the run. If you really look at Deebo Samuel averaged 8 yards per carry, but everyone else, I mean, for the most part, 3.8 out of Elijah, Eli Mitchell, and then Jeffrey Wilson averaged 2.8. So, at the end of the day, I mean, that's a pretty good, average, a good job holding them. Debo was the guy that took them to the next level in that run game, which was surprising. But if the Packers don't have the offensive line to establish this run, it's going to be a long day with Aaron Rodgers just having to throw with no run game established. And the Rams are more, and you've heard this if you've been watching, the broadcast over the last 2 weeks, they've pointed it out. The Rams want you to throw the football. They're more of a pass defense. They're not really, they don't focus on the run as much as the pass. I mean, you saw that. The reason the 49ers were able to run it so much and get those third downs is because the Rams really like playing that shell coverage, and they don't want to stack the box. They really don't want to put 8 or 9 guys in there, and they just do not want to do it. And they probably should have against the Niners, but they just don't want to play that style of football. And
they play light. They've been playing light this year.
Yeah.
That's why teams are able to run the ball. You saw that early this season. They just refuse to put 8 guys. They like more 5-6 man boxes. Try Aaron Donald, now Von Miller get home. I think with the Rams, dude, it's important to note they get Odell Beckham, Von Miller. They're getting 2 guys that have been banged up all year, and it's not like Madden where you just throw these guys out there and it's just automatically going to click. Like, it takes a little time. Yeah. I think, we could go back and forth with how good the Packers are, how good the Rams are, how good they've been off a loss, off a bye. We could do all that. But here is, if I have to sum this game up in, a couple short sentences, it's this. The Rams defense the last 2 weeks has not been able to get off the field. Third down, the last 2 weeks, mind you, they've allowed 12 of 26 third down conversions. That's 46%. They've allowed 3 out of 4 fourth down conversions. They've allowed 3 touchdown drives of 6 or more minutes, allowing 6 scoring drives of 6 or more plays. The bottom line is they need to get home, get off the field, stop letting these offenses convert. They're just, and not for nothing, like they've had a tough time, especially with San Francisco, with time of possession. They just ran it down their throats. And when they had opportunities to stop them on third down, even fourth, they are not able to do it. And, listen, let's call it what it is. Matthew Stafford did not play that bad against the Niners. He was not sharp. The first interception on the first drive was probably a miscommunication. It was still a bad throw. The pick 6 was all on Higbee. They had 5 drops that game. The Cooper Kupp, not Cooper Kupp, Ben Skronik. I don't know how you say his last name, but he should have caught a touchdown in the end zone. Like, it was, I don't know if it was a drop, but he
threw a little bit over his head.
A little, but Kupp, he got 2 hands on
catch that third down. That was a crucial third down in a game that was still a game.
Kupp drop, Higbee several drops.
Van Jefferson dropped touchdown.
Yeah,
Van Jefferson dropped third down. Oh my God, I'm reliving this all over again.
The point is
they need, by the way, to get Deebo Samuel figured out if they do play against them in the playoffs.
Well, that's another conversation.
Yeah, I guess we'll cross that bridge.
Yeah. Jake, here's the big thing I feel like with the Rams. Everybody knows the Rams are 43-0 when leading at halftime under McVay. But when they're trailing at half, they're 6-24. So it all comes down to the Rams need to get off to a fast start, and they need to get off the field. If you're playing from behind in the second half, historically, it does not go well in your favor. Now, I understand the Packers are banged up. They just allowed their first 300-yard passer last week to Kirk Cousins. Only second time this season they've allowed 30 or more points. So Green Bay's defense has definitely made a lot of strides this year. But LA, out of a bye, they need this. Stafford, hopefully, is healthy. Like, I had a source that was saying that Stafford should not have even have played the last couple of weeks with his back injury. But hopefully he's gotten right and is able to make some better throws. But quite frankly, Jake, the Rams their skill players need to play better. They have 16 drops this season. That's 6 most in the NFL. So I think with the way the Rams, they know what the pressure is. The Cardinals, they cannot afford to lose this game because Arizona's now a game and a half up on them, or maybe 2.5 games. They're on a bye this week. If you get the win, if you're the Rams, you're 8 wins, 8-3. And guess what? They have Jacksonville next week. Then they have Arizona. That's their season right there. If they lose to Arizona, they're not getting the division. They won't get a 1 seed. They're going to have to go on the road. And even though they can do it, this is not a position a team as good as this should be in. I think LA is going to win this because they're desperate. They need this more than Green Bay. Green Bay, as much as, they want to get the home field as well, they could afford to take a loss, even with Minnesota starting to charge forward a little bit. I think the Rams end up taking this, and I would probably lean over as well because I think defenses are just going to be a little bit on their heels.
I think a big key, though, for this game, and it's something I keep noticing people aren't talking about. The Rams offense is tied with the Buccaneers, 4.5. That number, it's how many appearances in the red zone they have per game. And you're like, wait, how are the Rams 4.5? Yeah, 4.5. Sean McVay has got to do a better job with the play calling in the red zone, which he struggled with going back to Washington. That's been his Achilles heel. And number 2, he has to do a better job of knowing when to take the points, knowing if you're going to go for 4th down, don't send your field goal unit on. I mean, I can already tell you
the fake field goal.
So bad.
Do you know how mad I lost? By the way, I lost a fantasy matchup because I lost by 0.01 because Matt Gay is my kicker because McVay thinks at 4th and 10 it's cute to do a fake field goal. Like
exactly.
I like McVay, but he thinks he's King Midas. Everything he touches turns to silver. Like he's got to sometimes stop being so egotistical.
It's so
like let's reinvent the wheel, right?
Yeah. Well, he has the play in his playbook for every scenario. So this is why when I constantly am saying I love this guy, he was my handpicked option. I am a huge McVay fan, but I gotta call it like it is because he overthinks things. Go back to the Falcons game in 2017 in the playoffs when they're at home hosting the playoff game for the first time since 2004, and he just doesn't things are working this way, and then he goes away from it. And then you look at, say, the 2018, the Super Bowl against the Patriots. I mean, obviously, Goff needs to play better in that scenario, but there were a lot of moments where you're running the ball pretty well with Gurley. You stop, and it's like, why did they only run the ball in a game that was historically a low-scoring affair? They ran the ball 11 times with Todd Gurley. And you look at 2019. In 2019, it's like they could never figure out what their identity was. Jared Goff was 5th in they were 5th in passing yards that year, but they weren't a good offense. They had no identity whatsoever. And then 2020, there were moments, in the Packers game where they, I just don't know what they were doing as far as the play calling was concerned, but they never should have been in the position where, hey, John Wolford, we need you to come in week 17 and save our season. That never should have been the case. And then this year, I mean, you look at, their first loss against Arizona, they abandoned the run right after, and keep this in mind, right after Sony Michel fumbled. That was not the game that Sony Michel started for the injured Darrell Henderson. That came the next week. Darrell Henderson was still available in that game. He was healthy. And they abandoned the run wholeheartedly. It's like Sean McVay gets himself into these situations on his own and then is so petrified of losing that he wrestles wins, he wrestles it from the jaws of victory. He wrestles defeat. And that's what I
paints himself into a corner.
Every time. I mean, and this is why I'm watching the Chargers on Sunday Night Football against the Steelers and watching the Steelers come back, and you're like, man, the Rams may be the best team in the league, but I don't think that they could do that. I know that they're capable of it, but I don't know if they would actually do it because under Sean McVay, like you suggested or like you said, Johnny, I mean, that is what they are. They're a team that has a certain, way of doing things, and they've been able to adapt in the past. You look at the Buffalo Bills game in 2020 that they absolutely should have won. But they lost that game. So it's like, I don't care if you come back from 25 down to lose. I want you to finally win finally have a comeback. Not this week. I'd prefer, let's have this be an easy one or an easier one. But for real though, it seems to me that's the biggest thing holding them back. And that's not Jared Goff. That's not Matthew Stafford. That's not Raheem Morris, because it's been the three different coordinators couldn't beat the 49ers. So to just pin it all on one guy, I just don't agree with, unless it is Sean McVay in a sense, because he is the constant there. And I think he does some great things, but to put it bluntly, Sean McVay is he's one of the best offensive minds in football. He may be the best schemer in football offensively, but play calling, he created the plays. He has everything at his disposal. He just doesn't call them in the right order. And I think he focuses so much on the personnel on the field that he goes away from what's working. Like, oh, well, we saw, single high safety. So we audible that. Why did you do that? They can't stop you doing that. Like, you're doing the same play over and over again. They can't stop you. So you're like, well, because we saw that, we like this look or whatever. And then it goes, ends up being an interception or something. It's something like, for instance, you look at the Henderson game. He had like 90 yards against the Texans. I understand they blew him out, but like, he just stopped running the football, like in a game where they're dominating him.
Jake, I don't want to cut you short. We gotta wrap. Move on to our Browns game here. This is the last one of the slate.
Yeah,
I do have the Rams on my Super Bowl ticket though. So two teams I have meeting a Super Bowl.
Packers in this one. I got the Packers in this one.
My apologies. You got the Packers?
I do. I have the Packers in this one. I think despite Aaron Jones not being in the game, I think it is business as usual for the Packers offense. They did just give up, like you said, Johnny, their first 300-yard passer in Kirk Cousins, but it's Kirk Cousins. Let's give some credit where it's due. The guy has not been great in primetime games, but over the course of the season at 1 o'clock or 4 o'clock, this dude is a stud and just does what he wants to do.
He is.
So the fact of the matter is Kirk Cousins has been a consistent top 10 quarterback this year. The record has not shown it because Minnesota has given up games late, as we've seen. But I would give the Packers this one. I think they shake off the surprise loss last week to the Vikings on the road and get one back at home here.
Let's get it. I do have Jake, real quick. I do have the Rams. I do have the Rams Super Bowl bet future. I took them to beat the Browns, took them to meet the Browns. So that's why Cleveland is very important to me as we're heading into
potential NFC Championship matchup here.
It could be. As we head into the Sunday Night Football game, we have the Cleveland Browns traveling to Baltimore to take on the Ravens. Currently, right now, the Ravens are 3.5-point favorites. Over-under sitting at 46. Kyle, where are you leaning with this one? Does Baltimore keep throttling Cleveland, or do they buck the trend?
I mean, you would think that they buck the trend here, but at the same time, it's going to be hard because Cleveland's not healthy right now, and it's just a matter of. I know Lamar Jackson. He just missed the last game, and we'll see what his situation is going forward. But Baltimore just snatched a game from the jaws of defeat. That's what Baltimore's been doing.
They're lucky though. They're lucky.
I know they're lucky, but you know what?
They're
still
win team.
Good teams find a way to win even when they don't have their best stuff going that day.
Or bad teams find a way to lose, which they've, kind of been handling. Regardless, you're taking the Ravens.
One hand washes the other. I'm going to be on the Ravens here just because here's the other problem. Baker Mayfield has not made me a believer, as Jake alluded to earlier. Baker's just look. I've been one of the ones that's wanted to be on Baker's boat. I love Baker Mayfield, Jake. I think he's a great attitude guy. Ever since that Kansas game in college, where that whole sideline.
I'm a Kansas fan. That's funny.
Well, I loved him for that moment because he was just trying to simply shake hands and do the respectful thing.
I never understood why they didn't shake his hand.
Right? What was that all about? But point is, he hasn't really panned out in the NFL, so it's just hard for me to buy into him, especially at quarterback. I mean, do the Ravens cover here? I don't know. Maybe they barely just win and get a field goal, and that doesn't get the cover here unless the spread goes down to 2.5. We'll see what happens come kickoff time. But I would still take the Ravens. I probably would take the under as well. I think this is a defensive struggle here, typical AFC North matchup.
Here's what I think here. Baltimore's defense is not what it was. They've had so many injuries this season. And listen, I've been saying it all year. The Ravens are winning
But the
games
Browns'
they
offense isn't
shouldn't.
what it's been.
But hold on, because the Ravens, they're winning games they shouldn't be winning. They realistically should be a 3, maybe a 4-win team as opposed to 7. They are fraudulent as well. Lamar Jackson's played well at times. I think he's getting way overblown with how good he's been. Like, don't get me wrong, seems like he's made strides, big time strides from last year. But
he's not the end of the world all-star, but he's improved. He's
definitely improved for sure. And now when you come and look at what they've done over against the Browns, this is something that's wild that I came across. The Ravens have only lost twice at home to Cleveland since 2008. They've won 3 straight versus the Browns, 4 of their last 5, and they've scored 31 or more in their last 3 games versus the Browns. However, this is where I think the Browns are going to have their path of victory. And Jake, you talked about it before. The Browns want to run the ball. And the big thing is they have Nick Chubb back. They possibly get Kareem Hunt back. This is one Cleveland desperately needs. They've been hurt all year. I've been saying this all season. With their injuries, they just have to weather the storm and get in. They have the Ravens 2 straight games sandwiched in between as a bye week. When the Browns run 30 times or more in a game, they're 5-1 this year as opposed to rushing less than 30 times. They're 1-4. So the common denominator comes down to running the ball. Nick Chubb is back. They should be getting Jack Conklin back soon. Kareem Hunt might be coming back. Even if Baker Mayfield's not fully healthy and not playing, to what he's capable of, this is the bread and butter. And the fact of the matter is the Browns defense has been a little hit or miss lately. So I would expect them to come back. I have Cleveland. There's been a lot of trend bucking going on lately, a lot. So the Ravens have been the trend at beating Cleveland. I think I'm going to go on the other side, not only take the Browns with the points, I think they're going to win outright because they desperately need it. They have to, at the bare minimum, split with Baltimore this season to not only have a chance at the AFC North, but to just make the playoffs in general. So you got to go with Cleveland.
Do you really think they could get it done if Kareem Hunt isn't available for this game, though? What happens if it's just Nick Chubb? And by the way, Nick Chubb, who might not be 100% coming off of being hurt.
Well, Nick Chubb had he had a hundy piece against the line. That's not saying a lot, but don't forget, bro, this is not Baltimore. This is not the Baltimore defense that we've seen for 15 years, 20 years. This is a much different Ravens defense that is getting gashed. And let's call it what it is. Like, yeah, they played the Bears, but look how many splash plays they let up against Chicago last week. They let up 2 60-yard touchdowns off the bat. And one of them was with Andy Dalton starting a quarterback. So we're not used to seeing this same Baltimore defense. So I think Cleveland can have some success. They just got to stay healthy. And I think, listen, if they don't win this one, I think they're going to win the next one because they're going to split with them. Hunt will definitely be back for Week 14's matchup. So I'm going to go with Cleveland here. I think they bucked the trend. It's just crazy how this season, all these trends, things have been going the other way. So I think I'm going to follow suit, and Cleveland is going to get it done for the 3rd time in Baltimore since 2008. Jake, what say you, my friend?
I have just an issue right now. Baker does not seem healthy. They've been saying he's playing with a shoulder labrum tear, whatever it is. I think they'd be better off starting Case Keenum right now until Baker's fully healthy. I do think that they're going to need Kareem Hunt in this game, although, they do have a solid, running back, a guy that was able to run against Vic Fangio's tough defense, and that's Dearness Johnson. So I think really they should just follow the same mold as, Kyle Shanahan did against the Rams. Just run the football, make Baltimore stop you. Baltimore does have guys up front that can definitely, make plays, but they definitely need to do that because their receivers are not all that great. And regardless if it's, Baker or, Case Keenum comes in, halfway through the game, I just think, lots going right for Baltimore. Lamar Jackson, while he was sick, he did get a day off, so to speak. He did get a week off. I think that's going to help him. In addition to that, Marquise Brown is probably going to be back this week. He wouldn't have played last week. And Rashad Bateman, he's somebody that I think a lot of people were really, they were talking, oh my God, this is the Rashad Bateman week. And then we were kind of blindsided by the Lamar Jackson news right before lock. So what I would say is this. Keep in mind, Rashad Bateman was, moving around as the number one receiver in camp. He kind of took over, looking at the guy, as well as good, Marquise Brown and Sammy Watkins. But really, they look at him as the future of this receiver core. And who was throwing to him in camp? It was Lamar Jackson. So they have that rapport. I think that they've been really ready. This is somebody that got an injury early on. I believe it was in camp, or it might have actually been in a preseason game. I don't remember exactly. But either way, I think, the Ravens have to feel good about, where they're at, getting him back. Their offensive line is pretty solid. I understand the Browns have a lot of names. Their defense is good. Don't get me wrong. But I really think they're going to have a hard time stopping Lamar Jackson on a week rest and, getting Rashad Bateman in that offense, because we'll finally get to see Rashad Bateman in that offense with Brown, with, Mark Andrews. And I mean, yeah, let's call it like it is. The running game is just not very exciting. Actually, it's one of the worst running games I've ever seen personally. But when you have Lamar running, he's at top 10 in rushing right now on the season. It's not really that big of a deal when you really think about it. So they've kind of been able to get, past that. And so I think the Ravens win. I'm going to say the over-under is 26. I could see.
What do you mean? Their team total?
The over-under is 46. It's
46,
right?
46.
Yeah. I thought
Okay,
maybe you're thinking team total.
Yeah, so the over-under is 46. I'm thinking it goes over. I don't think this is going to be a defensive battle. I do think the Ravens win. I'm going to say 30
38-35.
30-20.
So they win and cover in the over.
Yes, the Ravens.
Wow.
That's interesting. Listen, this is what the numbers point to. The trends point to Baltimore winning, just because, listen, the Ravens have had Cleveland's number for years, forever. I mean, obviously, you know how bad the Browns were up until very recently, but they've always had Cleveland's number. I want to go against the trend. Maybe it's because I'm a believer in Cleveland. I believed coming into the season, and mind you, this before the season started, the makeup of the Browns could beat any team in the AFC. Any team they could beat. You face Kansas City, they have guys that could get after Mahomes, keep him in the pocket like how Tampa Bay did in the Super Bowl. They could run the ball, keep Mahomes on the sidelines, run it down your throat. Titans, they could beat them as well because they could run the ball on that weak defense. Their defense would be good enough to kind of slow down Tennessee, Buffalo, yada, yada, yada. The point is, Cleveland, like I said, they're going to have to win one of these next two against Baltimore because, listen, as long as the Bengals, even though I think they're frauds, keep stacking up wins, Pittsburgh kind of hanging around, the Browns have to start winning a couple games, especially in the division, if they want to start getting further because the AFC East most likely sending two teams. The AFC West probably sending two teams. The AFC South, you might send two teams. So, there's only going to be one spot available. Is Cleveland going to be able to get it? That's why it's so important to this week, really, if Cleveland wants to make the playoffs, that they have to get off to a right start. And like I said, they cannot go in a shootout because Baltimore this season, at times, they've been able to put up points at will. And Cleveland can't play like that. They have to go 40 rushing attempts on the ground. I want to see 40 attempts at least on the ground this week for the Cleveland Browns. I think that is the only way they win. Keep Lamar Jackson contained. No stupid plays because they've been kind of getting a little sloppy lately. So let's go Cleveland. You guys are on Baltimore. I guess we will see on Monday.
Sure will. Former Browns coach Freddie Kitchens is going to be the new OC for the Giants.
Oh, my God.
Now it's time for my favorite segment of the night, the Gambling Guinea's best betting trends. Got one play that I'm absolutely crazy for this week. I like the Vikings +3 at the San Francisco 49ers. Now, you might be saying, well, why? The Niners are hot. They're getting up there. Here's the thing. Even though they've won back-to-back games, running the ball, getting back to their old school style where they like to ground and pound, play defense, 40 rushing attempts each of the last 2 weeks, 38 plus minutes of time possession last 2 weeks. Here's the thing. Under Kyle Shanahan, they are brutal as a home favorite. They're 8-11 straight up, 4-14-1 as a home favorite. No, thank you. I like what Minnesota's doing. I think they're getting very sneaky, and they're really starting to put it together because they're coming in for an NFC wildcard spot. And when you think about it, Kyle, you alluded to, Kirk Cousins has been, no question, one of the best quarterbacks out of any quarterback this season. You could arguably put him in the top 5 in terms of consistency. He's only got 2 interceptions. He's got, I think, 23 touchdowns. And they should have beat Arizona. They should have beat Cincinnati week 1. We could be talking about a much different team. I'm not truly sold on San Francisco just because they beat the Rams. Okay, they beat the Jaguars. This is not something that I'm not writing home about. I think Justin Jefferson against the secondary, he's starting to heat up. He's got back-to-back games with 8+ catches, 140+ yards. I like Minnesota to not only cover, but win this outright. Your Honor, no objections. And for our emerging player of the night, Mr. Kyle, I don't know. I continually don't understand why you feel the need to put hockey into this show. But nonetheless, go ahead.
Well, for me, it'll be Mr. Jack Hughes of the New Jersey Devils. Jack Hughes needs to get that attaboy, Jake. Yes, yes. My man pots and pans. Let's go.
Why did you come on?
I'm different because all right, so I like 3 different teams. I like the Devils, I like the Vegas Knights, and I like Edmonton. But yes, Jack Hughes, I can't wait till Jack Hughes comes back, and they just sent Holtz back down. So we'll see.
Yeah, well, you know what? Jack Hughes needs to come back in a big way for the Devils. So, let him come back big. Hopefully he'll get a big spot goal just like he did in opening night against the Chicago Blackhawks in overtime, where he looked absolutely fantastic. And the reason that the Devils drafted him number 2 overall when they did, look, it's do or die time for the New Jersey Devils as far as I'm concerned. It's make or break. Like you wanted to get a whole bunch of young core talent and everything and surround them with a couple of vets. Here you go. Now's the time. It's do or die, and it's enough. Enough is enough because I'm tired of the Rangers. I'm tired of the Islanders. Get it together.
I hear you. I mean, I'm a relatively new Devils fan. Since I've been going to the games, I was actually unfortunately at the game that, I mean, not unfortunately, they won. But I saw Jack Hughes get hurt, and I thought it was a garbage play regardless. I thought it should have been a penalty. It should have been called. But either way, I like the way that second line is playing. I call them the boys. It's Dawson Mercer, Andreas Janssen, and Jesper Bratt. Don't break those guys up when Jack Hughes comes back is all I'm saying, because they have a chemistry that is they're one of the best lines in the NHL that no one's talking about.
It's like the Conehead line in the movie Miracle.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, guys. Oh,
I'm sorry, man.
How do we work hockey? I don't know anything about hockey. I used to go to the Devils games when I was a kid at the Izod Center. It was very enjoyable.
Hockey's great.
I haven't been to a ton of.
Let it into your heart, Johnny. Let it in.
I'll say this: I am going to, before I move, I am going to a Lightning game down here. I have to. Like I would like to do it, but it's just, I don't know. I never really got into hockey. Like going to a game is a much different experience than watching on TV. That being said,
listen to Dave Mishkin call a Tampa Bay Lightning game on the radio. The dude doesn't shut up. What a homer.
That being said,
on WFAN they played sound drops of that dude.
Shut up, Kyle. That being said, Jake, kick us off here. What's your final thoughts heading into the weekend, heading into Thanksgiving?
Yeah. So hopefully we get some good games out of the Thanksgiving slate. It's not quite the, NBA Christmas, okay. Where the NBA likes to put the best teams on. The NFL just is like tradition, man. Like, let's throw the in whatever. I've lost count how many times that
9-1.
9-1 Lions. Let's put them against the Bears. And oh, by the way, just because we don't want you to get too excited, let's make sure, I mean, they didn't do this, but, the football gods did. Let's make sure Justin Fields breaks his ribs or whatever he does so he can't play. So the only exciting thing about that game would have been Justin Fields getting him to play. He's not going to play. So it's going to be Andy Dalton potentially versus either Jared Goff or Tim Boyle. Yikes. And then
How about some David Blau, the Thanksgiving Day tradition of David Blau?
I hear
I'm a
you,
big
but
fan of that.
well, I like him more than Tim Boyle. I mean, they should be starting Kyle Sloter, but that's a time for another story.
They should start Kyle. Kyle is QB1.
Yeah, I'll be QB1
who says
for them, no doubt.
Well,
no doubt.
They had a guy by the name of Kyle Sloter on their roster, and he absolutely went off every single opportunity he had in preseason back when he was with the Vikings, when he was with the Broncos. He's just a guy that, like, no matter what he does, like, he doesn't get a shot. And he's a friend of mine, so I figured I'd shout him out.
There we go.
But one day he's going to. And we got the Kurt Warner movie coming out at the end of the December.
Christmas Day, Kurt Warner.
There's going to be a Sloter movie when someone gives him an opportunity. I'm just hoping it's soon, and he doesn't get it when he's 33 or something. But no, I that game is really unfortunate because Justin Fields isn't going to play, so that's going to be boring. So for those of you who are desperately trying to get involved in that, and you don't have a team, like you have a fantasy team and nobody's on your fantasy team, let me just tell you, you should do DFS, because that is how you're going to get to watching that. Because you can pick 5 guys or however and try to be there and be rooting for Andy Dalton to rush for 4 yards if that's the prop bet that you want to do.
Or a player prop with DeAndre Swift, back-to-back 130-yard days. Maybe Swift. If Jared Goff, I'll tell you what, if Jared Goff plays, which I hope he does, a little DeAndre Swift sprinkle. We're just going to be sprinkling like the cinnamon on an espresso martini for over on receptions.
Don't be surprised if the Lions upset the Bears without Justin
sprinkle.
Fields.
Jake, just do this little sprinkle. We're just going to a little sprinkle on that.
Well, I'll say this. This is a little tidbit. DeAndre Swift did not get to play last year Thanksgiving. He was hurt. So this is his moment. I mean, this is what we're dealing with here. We're dealing with, like, can DeAndre Swift go off, basically? That's what we're talking about, because this game is not going to be all that great. Then you look at the Bills and Saints game, which I don't know what that's going to be. I mean, the Bills haven't really proven they can beat anybody good, and I don't even know if the Saints are good. So if the Saints are good, maybe the Bills lose again, and they just hand the AFC East to the Patriots. But that should be an interesting game. And then, Dallas and Vegas. I mean, Vegas is desperate. At this point, they've lost 3-4 straight. It's not looking good for them. And Dallas is a team, no matter if they lose, it's Dallas. So they'll come back. How do we know that? Every year they go 8-8. So I don't know. But no, I think if you're looking for big time performers on Thanksgiving, probably going to want to look if Alvin Kamara does not go, which I'm assuming he won't, and if Mark Ingram goes, I think he'll be. But if he doesn't go, then Tony Jones is the guy you want to watch for the Saints, because the Saints are going to run the football. They're not going to be throwing 50 times with Trevor Siemian against that Bills defense, because the Bills may not be a great team right now, but that defense is still very good. Siemian, Trevor Siemian, that's not a guy you want throwing 50 times, whether it's at home or not. So,
but good luck with Jones running with that defense right there.
Tony Jones, I'm just saying, if Ingram doesn't play, he's a guy, top performer potential. DeAndre Swift, certainly top performer potential. Darnell Mooney, I think he has a chance to catch maybe 2 deep bombs over the top. I mean, this is somebody that has really come into his own the last few weeks. And then, looking at Dallas, that's going to be interesting because Cooper's out and CeeDee Lamb's out. Could be a big Dalton Schultz game. I saw Dak leaning a lot on Schultz, not as much on Gallup. I think Schultz could be the guy that kind of goes off in that one. And on the Raiders side of things, I wouldn't be surprised if they just dink and dunk their way to a monster game from Hunter Renfrow, because that is a guy that they feel really comfortable with. He's super reliable. He may not be the sexiest looking pick if you were ever going to.
He's not, bro. He's like he was like an 8th year senior. Like I don't even know how that's possible. He's like Van
I saw
Wilder.
him at the Senior Bowl. I mean, I was taller than him.
He would Hunter Renfro had a 401k. He had a 401k at the Senior Bowl. He was like an 8th year senior. He was legit. He legit should have been starring in Van Wilder too. 25 years old, still in college. Like must be nice.
He showed up with an AARP card.
Do you know what I would have did to still be in college at 25? Dude, any idea what I would have given up?
His hand size is my hand size. And my hands, like I have small like hands. Like he's got the smallest hands I've ever. He catches everything. He catches everything. Yeah. He's always
glove,
open.
Bro. You got the glove. You got the gloves. You can catch everything.
He's always open. I mean, what was it in Hard Knocks? They used to call what's his face? Chris Hogan, 7-Eleven, because he was always open. Reggie Bush called him that.
Yep.
No. Chris Hogan, I don't even know where you are right now. We're giving that title to Mr. Renfro over here, who literally every time I turn on the tape, this dude's just open. It's a matter of if Carr's trying to go deep down the field, because you're not going to test, deep down the field with Renfro. He's going to beat you in a short area situation. And he's, he's not a bad option here. I mean, Darren Waller is as well, but that's kind of an obvious one. So yeah. I guess, we'll see if the receivers, I mean, it's a huge opportunity for Gallup. He could kind of turn into a wide receiver one this week, but that's pretty much what I'm looking at as far as, Thanksgiving. I think those are, top performers, guys like that to keep in mind. I don't know what's going on with Allen Robinson. I wouldn't pick him for anything. I would never bet on him at all. He seems totally checked out in Chicago. It just seems like the guy never gets the ball thrown his way. I don't feel bad because he chose Mitch Trubisky over Aaron Rodgers, and we need to stop saying free Allen Robinson. He brought this on himself.
Fair enough. Kyle, what are your final thoughts, my friend?
Well, my final thoughts are the fact that I saw a bunch of my in-laws this past weekend, and they were so kind to remind me of the matchup coming up this weekend of New England versus Tennessee in Gillette Stadium. And the New England Patriots are 6-point favorites, and I'll tell you what, Titans did something that I wanted them to do today. They got rid of Adrian Peterson. They have officially waived him, and in his place, they've signed Dontrell Hilliard, brought him to the active roster, and with that open active roster spot, they've also signed Golden Tate. That is right, the former Notre Dame Fighting Irishman is now going to be a part of my favorite NFL football team, my favorite college team to my favorite NFL team. Let's go. Give me some Golden Tate. Hopefully he adds to that passing game, being that Julio Jones is a complete ghost.
Shut up. I won't hear. I'll mute you right now. I will mute you right now. Don't you dare open your mouth.
I won't say another word. All right. I'll move along. I'll move along from him. I'll move along from him. Point being, hopefully the Titans can maybe get right here. I don't know if they get the win on the road. I actually like New England here. I just think that they're going to come up with a tough game plan. Defensively, they're on a roll. I mean, they are just shutting people down defensively. J.C. Jackson is a complete stud over there at corner for them. He's going to be an island. He's going to be an island within the next year or so. As far as I'm concerned, the only thing that questions me is them getting rid of Stephon Gilmore. That's going to be one where, you're going to wonder if they really should have gotten rid of him, or they should have tried to keep him somehow. But that remains to be seen down the road. I like New England here, but I like Tennessee to cover.
Fair enough. That is a good point, especially if this line gets back down to 5 or 5.5. Everybody knows what I say. It's an old adage. You always take the road team getting 5 or 5.5. It's just like it's one of those things. Just like you usually take a home team getting 2 or 2.5. That's just one of those numbers. A lot of line movement now. My final thoughts here. Buffalo Bills were -4. It's ticked up to 6. So this is very intriguing, but I hope everybody's got a happy, healthy Thanksgiving, a lot of food, a lot of football, watching some garbage NFL slate that we're putting out here. But you know what? It's time to be thankful. So I'm thankful for everybody that tunes in. I'm thankful for all of our great guests that we have on. Kyle, I suppose I'm even thankful for you.
Hey, I'm thankful for you, buddy.
I'm thankful for Nick. So I appreciate everybody coming on and watching it. And, I hope everybody has a great holiday, happy and healthy, eats a lot of turkey. Jake, I want to thank you for coming on. It was an absolutely great show. Tell everybody where they can find you.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me. It's been a lot of fun. You guys can follow me at Jake Bogen on Twitter. I pretty much have everything there. If you don't have Twitter, you can find me Jake Ellenbogen YouTube channel. That's been huge. I mean, I honestly, I started it last year, a little bit over a year ago. Talking days over a year ago. And it just turned into something that I didn't expect. So that's basically the best thing I could put. If you like the Rams, I have a Downtown Rams podcast. I co-host with Alexis Kraft. But that's, that's it. I mean, you can follow, JK Bogen on Twitter, and that's going to give you everything that I do just in a nutshell. So I don't have to go through every little detail, but yeah, it's been a lot of fun, guys. I mean, I'm down to come on anytime. I think I made that pretty clear to everyone. Do you guys remember that whole thing with the guy?
That Dan Clark guy? He used to. Yo, speaking of, I guess while we got time, he followed me on Twitter for a minute, and like I just couldn't stand the things he was saying because they just sound so stupid. And then like he big leagued somebody. He wanted a G note to go on their podcast. I was like, bro, like
he wanted like $50. No, he's like $100 or whatever. And the guy said like F off, and he like tweeted about it. And I'm like, I've had scenarios or situations in the past where a guest didn't go as well as I expected. I would never charge ever. I mean, that's why I was like, this is an opportunity for me. So I quote tweeted it, and then like originally I quote tweeted it like, bro, what are you talking about? Like I've literally had Kurt Warner, I've had Anthony Munoz, I've had all these guys on my show who have never asked me for a dime. Who the hell are you to say?
Exactly, really.
But then I was like, wait, no. Instead of putting them on full blast, why don't you instead put them on full blast using like more so an opportunistic approach? So I was like, hey, I'm a free guest. I charge free. I'm $0, 0 cents. Like anyone needs to get. And oh my God, my follow count went way up. People that still interact with me to this day, they'll DM me like, hey, like you want to come on? Like it was a good idea, and I'm glad I did it to this day because I've met some awesome people doing it. I've gone on like all these different shows. During that time, it was hectic. I appreciate you guys reaching out after the fact because it was so hectic during that time. I went on like 30 shows in like 30 days. It was just not. Plus, I was doing my stuff as well. So it was a lot, but no, this has been awesome, and I'm down to come on anytime.
Workaholic, man.
Yeah, man. We appreciate you coming on. And definitely look forward to doing this again very soon. And let's go Rams, baby. Futures bet on the Rams. Futures bet on Stafford Daddy doing it. I'm excited. But anyway,
we'll talk more sports with you, Jake, man.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll be back next week. Ciao.